living my dreams and I'm barely just getting started. I'm living you never. I'm just living life.
You said, running my head, making me sober. Taking it in, you can't pretend you didn't notice. Pick it apart, back to the start, I didn't know ya. Give it a chance, watching you dance, I didn't feel ya. Even though you're red right now, I don't want your crown. Even if I fall apart, I wanna be like you. I wanna do what you do. I wanna be like you. I wanna do what you do. Hear what you said, round in my head, making me sober. Know how it ends, you and your friends won't even notice. You had your part right from the start, nobody knew ya. Give it a chance, no I cannot. I wanna be like you. I wanna do what you do. I wanna be like you. I wanna do what you do.
From the grill in Albuquerque, New Mexico, it's the Truth Podcast with the General, Jack V. Hill.
What's up, Coach? What's up with the Winston? What's up, John?
Hey.
June, is it possible? June 16th, is it possible?
June 16th,
2020?
2020?
Who's got the...
Yeah, you guys got on echo mode over here.
One of you guys.
One of you guys.
June 16th, man. Your town is national news today.
National news, Coach.
You know,
National news today. National news, Coach. You know.
What's happening, man? How's your week been, bro?
Coach, you know what's
happening?
You know what I think has been crazy this whole time? The week has been good, but I think that there's been a lot of just, I would say, kind of weird energy going around, right? For a lot of people, and I think that when there's got to be great change in anything, right? It's like weight training. There's that soreness portion part about it. And I think the big issue that we're running into is how do we handle these emotions? How do we handle what's going on in our lives and to continue to stay positive and continue to do productive things in life, right? I think that's kind of what I think the mindset is kind of getting out of that funk, Coach. I'm not gonna lie, yesterday, I'm driving to the office and dude, I was off my game. I just got the game. And so I'm talking to myself, what am I gonna do? I played my music, I played the YM song on.
We just have an echo. Why do we have an echo?
We got an echo. What's going on here, guys?
you know, for you to be off your game, I think that's very important that we talk about that a little bit because it's trying times right now. You know, everybody's locked up in COVID and, you know, going through emotional times to see what's going on in our communities across the country. And so I could see there are times I get caught up in emotion and you know, have to be able to like regroup, re-energize, you know. I'm locked up with my wife and my son in the apartment and we get on each other's nerves and you know, bang heads, the three of us. And that plays a part into our endurance levels and how we're handling things.
Yeah, hold on a second. Sorry about that.
And so we're having some production issues right now. So, you know, everybody that's listening out there, we're going to keep going, but just bear with us. John will get it hammered out. And so I can understand that. So it kind of makes me feel a little bit better to know well, I'm not the only one feeling the pressure of what we're going through right now emotionally.
You know what I thought about? It's kind of weird. Have you guys ever seen Avengers? You seen the last Avengers?
No.
Where the Avengers are facing this tremendous foe. What's his name? Thanos, right? And you're in that moment and they're like almost losing hope and they're superheroes. I kind of felt like the Avengers yesterday morning, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, here's Thanos coming in, all this stuff going in with all the negativity. And I think that what I really thought about was like, I need to regroup because, you know, I'm like the leader of the Avengers, right? I got to go in, I got to lead Harmonix Technologies. And so I don't get a choice to have an off day. There's no off days for me, no matter what it is, right? So I got to throw that game face on.
You ain't got time to bleed.
Yeah.
As Jesse the Body Ventura said in The Predator to Apollo Creed.
Yeah.
You ain't got time to bleed. Or I ain't got time to bleed.
Yeah, so you look at that and, you know, with that mindset in place, you know, I had to move myself to that funk. And I turned out yesterday to be very productive in creating systems and what I got to do, changes, multiple things. And I said, I got to go rock steady. So I think sometimes we can really be empathic and take on what's going on in the universe with us and carry it on our shoulders. And it's not really for us to carry. You know what I'm trying to say? So we're getting in there and we're getting under a weight that we're not supposed to get under.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what I was seeing out there. And so I allowed myself, and the other thing I was kind of coach, I'm telling you a funny story. So we're out, you know, I was out in Vegas this weekend and I hit 3 jackpots, right? 3 jackpots one night. And one of the things that what the universe was talking to me is, I said, if I hit 3 jackpots, I can hit 2 more or 3 more or a bigger one. And, you know, I was gambling away shit, you know, a lot of my winnings. But it was taking me to a lesson in life, is sometimes we'll hit the big time where no one hits, but we still want to push it and push it and push it and push it.
Right.
So it was a compilation of a lot of things to yesterday morning, right, that had been sitting on my mind. And so I think that that really kind of threw me off, right? I think the other thing that's crazy is
I hate that I missed that phone call. The general called me like Friday afternoon. I couldn't take the call. It was for the Las Vegas invite. You know what I'm saying?
see that, coach?
Hey, you got the call, man.
No, I didn't.
No, I didn't.
And so, you know, that puts you in the next point you were trying to make.
And I think the thing is about it, like, I think the point that I want to talk about is when you're trying to reach success, right? And it doesn't matter if it's at the beginning, a third of the way, 2/3 of the way, or you're there, we're always having to beat our mind and talk about not failing. Right? There's always that fear factor that's going to hold us, or kind of like that weight on our shoulders. And I think that you look at me, right, and you look from the outside in, you know, this guy's made it, he doesn't have to worry about anything, it's just there. But not yesterday, right? I take on this weight, and I'm looking and I said, it doesn't matter what level you're on, we're all human and we all have that same feeling. It's how we deal with it is really the big picture. You know, when you get to talk to Winston over here and you're like, hey, what's going on, and sometimes either he's super optimistic or there's certain things, but again, when you're looking at it, it's like, well, you're getting there. And so kind of touching on that, I mean, think about this, Coach. We're all in different levels, right? You've been in coaching, you're here. And I think even in our age groups, we're kind of on that spread. I mean, what are you feeling right now? What's your feeling right now in this current, and everything?
For me, how I've been thinking the last couple of weeks, really applying to how can I make it better? What in my skill set can make it better? I'm talking about better the big game. Coaches, been successful in the football games. But I've been really thinking, going, man, here in Albuquerque, we can build something where we need to empower our young people. The young people that I've seen, protesting across the country has reinvigorated me, has re-energized me to go, if these young people can bring on change, and it makes you look at going, it's always been young people that have brought around change. I have a skill set that I can teach young people how to empower them and help them when it comes to achieving production, And my thought process has been, man, if we can build a facility or a culture, taking the culture that would empower our young people, our brown people, to empower them to take on the game, to let them know, yes, they've been down, but we can't have this victimization mindset. Yeah, racism is alive and well, but we can't have this victimization mindset. We've got to plow through it. We've got to overcome it. That's where it's starting to, when I see these young people putting themselves out there and saying, the young people yesterday, I was eating, me and my wife went to, for the first time, went out to an outside restaurant the other day. And we're not high-eyed people. We're, so we went to Frontier for breakfast. And I looked down, where we were sitting, there was a single protester with his big sign in the wind, because it was windy Sunday, had his big sign protesting the mural in the library at UNM that's been in the news. And I went, how about this? This young kid on Sunday, he was struggling with his sign because the wind was blowing his sign, and he was going out there making a statement saying, and have you seen the mural that they're talking about?
I've never seen it.
It's about having a white person in the middle with his eyes open and a Hispanic on one side, a Native on the other with no faces. And the white person, it's been there forever. And the white person, I think since the 30s it's been there. And it was about, the white people leading. It was about privilege. It was about, and now all of a sudden the students are saying, no, we've got to get that mural down.
That mural's been down? It's at UNM?
It's at UNM in the library. It's been there since the 30s. And so now with what they've seen, with taking the statues down in the South and stuff like that, they decided, hey, this mural's got to come down. More power to them. So it's reinvigorated.
Yes.
So I've always said, the general and coach, the Creator brought us together. You know what I'm saying? And God dang it, it's the truth, man. I think about it all the time. What's me in the journal? Last night, around 10 o'clock at night, I got back from what I was doing. And you know what movie was on? 300. And so, who do I think about when I saw the movie 300? Last night I thought about the Gen. And I'm going, okay, what are the similarities the General had with Leonidas? And you got me thinking this now.
You got that?
You know what I'm saying? And, what would my role be? I'd be a council person or something like that, the old timer, But it's got me intrigued and sparked to say, man, maybe my way of getting involved, maybe my way is to say, let's build something where all colors come in and we empower them and we equip them and we show them a way to reach their expectations, to even have expectations. And
That's I put the mural up that you're talking about, Coach.
yeah, and there it is, Jack. Take a look at it. Zoom in on that so Jack can see it really, really good. It really is. It really is kind of offensive.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And for it to be up since the 30s, man. But now's the time. Young people are speaking up. You know, now's the time, and that inspires me. I love, as an older person, man. What are you laughing at?
No, John's making it. I wasn't laughing at you. John made a funny face.
No, because this is just like because I teach just like this. Like we'll be talking about something, and I'll put it up on the screen, and I'll be like, "There it is. That's what we're talking about."
Yeah.
So
I think documentation.
He was proud of his what he
Look,
did there.
look, I want to read some of you guys.
Production skills. Is that what it is?
I want to read some of you guys. Talk about this, right? I saw this quote that I thought was powerful. It says, people who waste their 20s will hate themselves during their 30s. Use your 20s to get fit, learn to sell, build your habits, learn profitable skills, learn a second language. You'll make mistakes, but no one cares because you're still young. This is the unfair advantage of the youth. That's powerful, right? So we're talking about, Coach, is that's a whole young millionaire's mindset thing that I talk about. So it's never too late, but for the masses, I was thinking about Carson about this, how powerful myself that I took my late teens and my 20s just bust it. And you know, sometimes I talk to people and like, well, I took my 20s to enjoy life and party and experiment and see this, but you wasted that whole time. Because when you get to 30, you know, people want to hold you accountable. You get to 40 and they're trying to hold you to the next level, right? And that's why, like, even when you think about the law, there's a difference when they try you as an adult or versus a kid, right? And when you think about that, they're expecting you to do mistakes. And when I thought about that, is how many 20-year-olds are really out there focusing on their fitness, on their mind, learning some skill that's going to make them profitable. You know, touching about that, and that's where you literally gotta iron this stuff out, right?
Our production director's he's having a struggle today. Karma. Absolutely. You know what I've said is, what I've said is a guy that's in the 5th decade of his life. You know, what I've said is for young people, which is exactly what you said. So I'm glad. Which is I've said your 20s are for you. You know, your teens or your parents, the teens. The 20s is yours. Do with it what you may, because it's all about you. The 30s is for, you know, if you have kids or something, your life becomes theirs. If you have a wife, your life becomes, you know, theirs. The 30s is for, you know, the 40s and the 50s. The 20s is where you plant the seeds for your journey.
Yes.
Which is exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Where you plant now, whether it's party seeds or, hey man, my 20s is going to dictate my 30s and 40s, you know, but the 20s is for us, you know, was for us individuals.
So we're saying is, again, Coach, if you plant the seeds in no fertile soil, that's the party scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then there's an old thing I also saw is like, work hard now and live free later, which most people don't do. I want to also touch on this. Less people, less drama, keep your circle small. I was writing all this stuff down right somewhere. There's another meme that I see all the time. It says, work while they sleep, learn while they play, save while they spend, live like they dream. Most powerful quote I ever think in my life. Right? And that's kind of
why is that the most powerful quote for you? Why does that hit you right?
Because it's a fact. I'm a proven fact of that. So I was doing everything opposite of what people were doing, the masses of what they thought were cool. I was actually moving the needle. And so now I'm living the dream of what people think they could live to, because I already put that work and effort into it. I mean, what do you think, Carson? I mean, chime in there. What do you think about that statement?
Yeah, it's 100% true, and we're seeing that with a lot of people in my age demographic. You know what I mean? A lot of people, like I said this last week, you know, a lot of us are so caught up in the latest and greatest thing, getting the newest shoes, the newest shirts, the newest car, the newest whatever the case may be. And, you know, one thing that Jack has taught me is don't buy anything unless you can afford it 3 or 4 times over. And if you can't afford it 3 or 4 times over, you probably have no business getting that. And, you know, that just ties into everything where, you know, even the party scene and all this, like, yeah, it's fun and stuff. Like, I'm not going to lie, I do go out occasionally before all this COVID
young,
stuff.
are you kidding me?
But yeah, you know, and you have to find, what I think is you really have to find that balance. You know, you're not going to be, don't go out partying every single weekend and you're living check to check, and then don't be complaining that you're living check to check. You know what I mean?
Don't pick up that $1,000 tab. You know, when
Yeah,
you,
well-
let the general pick it up.
No. Jack makes me split it now. He said I make enough money, which
Those
is
days are over.
which is fair. I got a few freebies though, by the way.
But talk about that a little about that. That's something people should know. Talk a little bit about that.
Which
my,
one?
My philosophy, what you just said.
About the 3 or 4 times over.
No. About when you got to carry your own weight.
Oh yeah. I mean, just anything in life. So I mean, even when me and Jack kind of first started hanging out and getting close, I'd go on trips, and obviously, you know, I was doing pretty well. I was still working at a big corporation or whatever. I wasn't making the money I was now, and Jack kind of knew where I was and where I stood with things. So when we'd go like on these car runs, or he'd pick up hotels or certain things like that, and I would buy food.
Yeah.
Of course, it wasn't a 5-star restaurant or whatever. I'd buy him a drink over there or whatever. So, but I mean, the one thing that stood out too is I always proactively came and said, hey, you know, I'm going to bring what I can. And I think that's one thing that stood out to Jack too,
Yes.
where I wasn't so much of a taker. You know what I mean? It wasn't the thing like, oh, I just want to be around to go ride in the car or do this or do that.
What was the teaching that you know, and how did that teaching progress? Because there's a teaching lesson there.
Well, I think.
So what was your goal?
So I'm going to give it a great philosophy. You know, I like to study animals a lot, right? And you look at like when a lion's teaching a small lion, especially a male lion to a male lion, and the responsibility is that they have to put that effort in. And so like my whole thing is, it's all basically based on where you're at, right? So it's levels to the bezels. Remember my famous line when I say there's levels to these bezels? Well, think about this, right? When you first start off, you got a Mickey Mouse watch. That's your bezel. And then you start to climb up, and then depending on what watch you're at, it's called level to the bezel. But the philosophy is this. You have to pay your due share. So example is this, like what he's talking about. I'm going to get real clear. Well, I know he's putting in that work. So I said, what I try to do is I try to instill the mindset. I'm like, okay, I'm going to pay for this, but you're going to learn A, B, and C. You're going to be here when you get this car clean. You're going to help it load it. You're going to strap it down. You're going to be responsible. And that's going to be the trade. Obviously, what I do is I don't like to put people in positions where they can't afford it or they look dumb.
Well, you're going to feel good contributing.
Yes.
That was your goal.
That's my call. But the thing was about it is like when we get to the hotels and stuff, well, I'm not going to come down the point and say, well, I want him to carry his weight. So we're both going to slum it in some places. Doesn't make any sense. My whole thing is, as the older bull, right? I call myself the young bull and I call the baby bull. It's teaching them the good life. And I've had guys like this, like guys like Kenny Borrego, and I was his bodyguard. And, you know, I learned this life and I was like, I would have never learned it. So he's like, your job is make sure no one screws around me. Okay, easy thing. But you get all the lifestyle.
And make sure you call me Mr. V. Hill
Yeah.
when we're in the casino.
Yeah. So,
He never pulled that one on me.
yeah. So, you know, the thing about it was when we came in, I said, well, okay, but we get the next day. And everyone knows that, you know, I know you're going to laugh at this, but, you know, I love McDonald's, so I don't give a shit, right? I like breakfast there. So I said,
I would laugh at it. Donald Trump eats it every day.
yeah, so I said, you know what? You got that, you got breakfast today. So it's based on the levels, right? And so we all put that contribution. And I remember one big time I took my best friend, we go to Europe, and he's like, let's go to Europe, I'm going to be out here. Well, you know, Coach, I hit the big time success. And so he tells me, we're going to backpack this thing, and we're going to stay at these hostels and all that. So we go to the number one hostel in all Europe, which is in Slovenia. I don't know what a hostel is, right?
But you found out.
Right, so I roll in, and man, I wish he could come on. He's a doc now. We roll into his hostel. No one's there yet. And I said, what's going on there? Give us a walkthrough. So this is the number one hostel in all Europe. This is like the 5-star of hostels. So we walk in.
For a 5-star?
Yes, okay.
So we walk
He's got a
in,
rating system.
and we go in, and I said, what's that? And he says, oh, that's a big room. And I said, what does that mean? He says, oh, you guys, there's bunk beds, 4 people this room. And I said, what is that? And he's like, oh, that's the community shower. And I said, for what? For everybody? He said, oh, yeah, everybody. So you take your thing and you say when you're going to shower based on a schedule. You put your minutes. And I laughed my ass off and I said, well, you know what? I said, how many people does this hostel hold? And he says, I think it was a total of 16 people. So I said, okay, good. How much is it? I think it was like $25, $30. I can't remember. I said, I'm renting the whole fucking hostel. So I rented the whole hostel, right?
So it was just you four.
Just us two.
Oh, just you two.
Just
Okay.
us two.
Big time the hostels.
And so I rented the whole hostel.
He beat the system.
And so then he's like, so the guy's like, well, these poor little couple shows up, and they're like, man, we don't got a place to stay. And I said, you know what? You're on me. But you know what you got to do? I said, you got to bring the burgers. And they laughed. Well, that's cheaper. I said, that's what you got. You got to bring the burgers. And so I have that more of that community environment. You have to contribute. And so they brought the burgers, and he says, I've got better than that. I said, we went up to the mountain. We got cheese. We got wine. Great conversation. I said, but there's only one rule. I don't share a bathroom with nobody. So you guys are going to be over here with the staff. That's the only rule I have, right? No one stays in my room and you're not using my bathroom.
You dump it in the forest.
Yeah. Yeah. But you got a place to sleep and you
In
can
the
eat, you'll be
woods.
good. So,
You know, it can be quite liberating dumping
yeah.
in the woods.
So you know what the crazy part? So then this whole student, Doc goes in. I'm helping him. We get this project done fast. And I said, you know what, Doc? You're going to pull your weight. I said, whatever makes you feel comfortable, we're not backpacking. So I chartered a jet throughout Europe, right? And I said, we're going to get to all these countries, 20 countries in 2 weeks. And we're going hard, 5 classes. But we're getting to these restaurants, and I'm like, steak and lobster, whatever the top is. And I like, you know, everyone knows I like caviar. And he's in there and he's like, bread and water, no bullshit, right? And I said, what are you talking about? I said, no. So I said, this is the game. Whatever you're gonna pay for towards the bread and water or cheese, whatever it is, you put you're carrying your weight, but if I want to give you extra, it's my prerogative. And he was like, okay. So he ate the same meal I ate, he put his portion in, I just elevated it. And that's my whole rule. So I'm never gonna carry you, but it's my choice if I want to elevate you.
Right, right.
And we were up in Milan, we're in Italy, and we had to get back. And I said, you know what, we're out of here. So we got a private car and pulled back.
20 states in 14 days. That's like going to see New York City in a day and a half. You know, like, this is this. Let's go.
A big
You
man,
know,
Parliament.
and so,
And I mean, we were going hard, coach. I mean, this
Yeah.
is, you know, we're going big time. We're going like Puff Daddy, baby.
yeah,
But it's good to, the thing is, my philosophy is I want to share those moments with the people that I care about.
right.
And to teach these guys up. So it's like a teaching moment.
Which again makes me feel bad that I didn't get a phone call about Las Vegas. He wants to spend these moments with the people he wants to spend these moments with.
Yep.
You know, one of these days.
I thought he was canceling it, and then he sent me a picture that he was there, and I was like, "Oh, guess he changed his mind."
changes mind.
Man, he didn't call me. He's there. I have my bag ready to go.
I was actually supposed to go to Scottsdale, so I'll let him fly on the no invite, and he knew I was going to go out the same weekend, but I canceled due to the crazy spike of cases that were in like the last 24 hours before I was supposed to fly out. So
Yeah, no doubt.
he's got a free pass. I'm not giving him a hard time about not inviting me because
Yeah.
he thought I was going to be out anyway.
Yeah, you didn't invite me first, so I said, you know what? So I kind of tend to do that, right? I'll like one up you. So like, if you leave me out, you're gonna be like, hey, I'm here.
Or he'll show up
Yeah.
where you are.
Let's see how this works.
If I post a picture in Disneyland, he'll be there the
My
next day.
brother's
Right?
getting married in Oklahoma.
He'll be riding in a limousine with Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't invite me to Disneyland, but I'm here.
It's a coincidence. We're all here together.
My crew's going to Oklahoma this weekend. My brother's getting married, and so Phil and you know, a couple of us are going to go and hang out at his wedding in Oklahoma. A little different than you and your crew going to Vegas.
Just
You
a
know.
little, coach. Not too much, but you know what?
You're invited. So
I get invited. See, that's how I always end up. It's weird with me. I always get invited towards the end. I'm never on the forefront. So that if I do show up in Oklahoma,
It's because that was the topic of conversation.
Yeah.
So now he's covering his bases.
Exactly.
See?
Exactly.
So now he has a points up. So the next time there's a trip, he can give you even more of a hard time.
Now maybe
Yeah.
2 trips from now, or 3. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just planting the seeds now that we talked about,
Yeah.
and see how that goes.
Exactly.
You know, how did you overcome you were a little bit in a funk, saying out of sorts. You know, you immersed yourself in work yesterday to get yourself, you know, where do you see yourself with this? What's transpiring and what's, you know, doing?
opportunity.
Okay.
I see nothing but opportunity. Opportunity for change. But I'll tell you one thing. We got Brienne who works at the office. We see Breezy. She comes up and quotes some horrendous shit. She was putting together this really awesome meditation class with the yoga community in Albuquerque with the silent protest. And then we had the actual group that was running and I could get this all fucking wrong, but a group that was the organization saying, well, you're not sanctioned to do this. And then it came out there was even a weirdo a threatening email. She came out, she posted on it and all that. And I thought, this is all bullshit, because if you know her as an individual, one of the most peaceful people of all time. And so one of the things I looked at is but I always give this famous story. If Jesus was crucified by his own people and he was God, we don't stand a fucking chance. So there's nothing to worry about, right? But she was pretty down. And one of the things that I thought about that was all this negativity around us. So yesterday before the funk was coming in, Coach, what I really had to do was dig deep. And I ask myself, I've been in positions am I going to make it back? You know what I mean? I don't want to get too much detail, but I've been in positions am I going to make it back? And so when I compare those moments to that moment, it's nothing. You're sitting in the Hummer with AC listening to music. In the positions I've been asking myself, am I going to make it back? We're not even the same spectrum. So it's retrospect, right? So I said, well, I got all the positive. So I played some music. I got on and told myself, you know what? Change your attitude. I walked in that office ready. And I started going to work, and I said, what do I got to get done? So I made my list. Laid down the major things that I got to get done, 5 major things. We probably accomplished 2 or 3. Went down, I just started going to work. And I said, you know what? I don't want to feel this way. What is it? Is it the negativity? What's going on around me? I got to pull myself out of this shit. So how do I contribute? Is by the Truth Podcast. Working with you guys. Maybe working with the youth. The charity. But I can't immerse myself with the fucking general population. I had people come to me say, hey, will you come on march with me? I said, well, I got to go risk versus reward. Well, I'm a hothead. So if I go out there and I'm trying to march protest, some guy comes and pushes me like the situation we're talking about, I'm probably going to get myself in trouble. So what I got to do is I got to step myself back and I go with the risk versus reward. And so what can I do? So what am I going to do? I'm going to work on legislation. I'm going to work with the business community. I'm going to be like, that's not right. If I see something bullshit, I'm going to step in, doesn't matter what. Because I live by the right or wrong principles.
You're going to pay for some food to people who might be struggling.
Exactly.
Which is what you've done.
Yeah.
It's the young people. I know as much as important that those people go out there, the general doesn't go out there. You know what I'm saying?
No.
The general can't go out there. For reasons of the general attacks it differently. I saw a great piece. I don't know if you guys haven't seen it, watch it. Chappelle came out with a little bit of a stand-up. Had nothing to do with stand-up. It was like a 27-minute piece he released last week. And he said people are saying, why haven't I said anything lately? He said, have you watched my comedy skits? Do I not say anything? But he said, I'm not coming out saying anything or going out protesting because the streets don't need me right now. The streets are talking for themselves.
Yep.
Yes.
And they don't need me. And so what he did was, did you see the piece? It was phenomenal what he said. And the streets don't need you, General.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
I thought he did a great job by building history into it. I completely agree with you, Coach, because what he did also is he showed a comparison. He goes, have you ever heard of this guy who killed a bunch of cops? Yeah, and he said,
No doubt.
okay, so he reported his partner for using excessive abuse. He lost his job, went through all the processes to try and get
Military man.
Yeah, so this is
Guy that did everything right in the military went into law enforcement when his duty was done.
Yeah, so Dave Chappelle tells this story about this cop, and you guys have never heard about him, and I hadn't. And he says, this guy loses it, and he goes and he kills police officers.
He declares war on the police department.
Yes, I did see this.
Declares war on the police department.
So then they find out where he's at. He's hidden in a cabin in Bear Mountain, and 400 cops show up to exact revenge, and they turn him into Swiss cheese.
Oh,
And
shoot.
he gave that parallel to, okay, so do you see when you sat on a guy for 8 minutes and 46 seconds next?
He said 400 cops, they were pissed. Every one of them were pissed that this guy had killed cops. Now do you understand why we're pissed? It's the same correlation. That's what he was doing, was going, that's where he understands the same. The legend,
Right.
Phil Chavez, is in studio. The owner, CEO, Grandmaster Chef here at The Grill on San Mateo. You gotta get in that camera right there. Say hello.
Hi, guys.
Do you want me to play a little bit of that clip?
Yeah, you could. You want to play a little bit of it, Jack? You want to listen to it?
Yeah, that's what
Chappelle?
I was-
Chappelle?
yeah, that's-
It was
that's-
Chappelle said a little bit of it.
And some money and my keys, all these things, while the earthquake is happening, while I'm
is
experiencing
another great
what
analogy.
earthquake is the first time, and I was certain.
Yeah. So what he does is he gives this analogy. He says, I was in California and I'm not from there, but an earthquake hits and he's panicking and he
Thought
grabs,
he was going to die.
thought he was going to die.
34 seconds.
Yeah, so for 34 seconds, he ran around thinking that he's going to die. He's grabbing his weed and he's grabbing his pipe and he's grabbing his money. And for 34 seconds, he felt panic. And he says, here's the most traumatic things he's experienced. And it was only lasted 34 seconds. And that's the story he's telling right here.
As you can see,
That I might
the
very
name of the piece is 846.
possibly die. As a matter of fact, I remember I made a point not to scream, just in case I lived, I wouldn't have to remember myself being vocally terrified. But I forgave myself for being terrified. That earthquake couldn't have been more than 35 seconds. This man kneeled on a man's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Can you imagine that? This kid thought he was gonna die. He knew he was gonna die. He called for his mother. He called for his dead mother. I've only seen that once before in my life. My father, on his deathbed, called for his grandmother. When I watched that tape, I understood this man knew he was gonna die. People watched it. People filmed it. And for some reason that I still don't understand, all these fucking police have their hands in their pockets. Who are you talking to? What are you signifying? That you can kneel on a man's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds and feel like you wouldn't get the wrath of God. That's what is happening right now. It's not for a single cop, it's for all of it. Fucking all of it. I don't mean to get.
And he releases this, was it 27 minutes, this piece? And really, it was his way of saying, I don't need to be in the streets. The streets have got it. The streets have got it. But I'm going to give you my opinion because he knows so many people are talking about it. And it's really profound. So, and he released it on YouTube because he wanted everybody to have it for free. You know, he released it, you know.
Nice.
And so we got off on that tangent because I think, Jack, if anybody thinks you should be out in the streets protesting, they need to look at 846. You know, streets are talking now. We don't need our prominent people in the streets.
I was trying to find this freaking message. I can't find it. But what's beautiful is, Coach, is this kid told me, he says, I'm a Native American kid. I'm ready to give up on life, this, that job. And he says, what's your word of advice? And it's crazy because I sat back, I was going to share this. I wanted to share it on the screen. And I told him, I said, you know what? Never make a decision when you're mad, sad, angry, or very happy. calm sense, right? And I said, you know, after every storm, there's a rainbow. And I said, what's going to make us, as long as we can weather the storm, we're going to make it out. And it was crazy because I put those words in place, and he responded back and said, that's what I needed. Another kid comes out, just messaged me now, was, you know what, every time I see you inspire me, and you actually show that I can do it, right? And so what I guess today what I was talking about is, it doesn't matter, right? Even me at the top, we're talking about that. We have those off days. But it's like, how do you prepare, right? And it's that mindset getting over. But Coach, one other thing about me is, again, you know, when I'm totally at bottom of the line, and I'm sitting there and I go, mind, body, spirit, and I've shared this, only the mind can heal the body, but only the spirit can heal the mind. And that's when I reach out to God and say, hey, I'm at the limit here. I need an answer. I need something here. And it's like weird because it's like seconds later, there's a certain level of clarity that comes to me. You know what I mean?
And I appreciate the lessons too, because now I understand. You know, over the years, he would always let me buy the coffee. So thank you. You know, because I would think that's the general, man. You think you can buy a coffee every now and then, you know. And
I think he's got to be mixed up with somebody else. I don't remember. I think, you know,
spiritual is something people don't really understand, the power of spirituality when it comes to balance. There's a lot of people that don't understand that, you know, and so, like, I'm going to Oklahoma this weekend, and things I'm looking for is, you know, Friday morning, going to a sweat lodge Friday morning, and I'm looking forward to it because I need it. I need to have a talk with the Creator.
Yes.
You know, I need to suffer a little bit, you know, and so people don't understand the importance of that spirituality. Even if you're home like you do, I do, even if you're home, having a conversation with that Creator, you know, and reaching out is important.
And I think, Coach, the other thing too is just about being just gratitude, in a state of gratitude, and just being like, when you're feeling like shit, sit back and ask yourself, what am I thankful for? And you sit there, you can do a lot of things, and you go down to just the bottom line and say, you know what, I got my health and I'm walking. You know, that's what I know for me is just powerful. When you're able to just go down to that level and say, holy smokes, I'm walking here, I got it. But we can sit there and we can start saying, oh, the car's scratched, these floors suck, and becoming so critical of all the blessings that we've obtained. And now we're looking at them as they're not blessings. But when you look at something with a negative attitude, you can look at something beautiful and it can become ugly. With a positive attitude, you can take something that's mediocre and look beautiful. It's all based on the mindset that you're looking at through. And that's what I've learned. It's really attitude equals gratitude, and really that mindset. What am I doing?
That affects the vision.
The visions affect us. You're in a sense of hate. You're in anger. Someone makes a reaction, you think he's going to take you out, and he wasn't. And that's what that whole thing, I think that's what we've been talking about for these last 3 podcasts, is about what's the culture that you're creating in your mind. You know, that's the big piece.
For example, Stephen Papa Jr. yesterday, when that militia went there, what they go there for? Shake hands with the protesters? They went there for action.
Oh, just to create problems.
They went there for action, and because of it, he's sitting in the county jail right now, making national news. The weight of the world is going to be on his shoulders on a decision that he made out of hate. You know, like, I'm sure he didn't think it was going to turn out the way it turned out, but in a split second.
You know the thing, Coach.
You know, if you see that video of him throwing that young girl down, he threw her down. He threw her down, and that's when people started chasing him. And still, his reaction was, "It's okay for me to shoot somebody." Hate in his heart, that had to build up.
Or was it there? I mean, that's the thing is, right, does it really need to be built up? I mean, who are you at the core? You know, and I think that's at the end of the day, we have to evaluate ourselves and say, who are we at the core? Who are we practicing to be every day? Like, I don't think you've ever seen a monk go postal, right? We've never seen a monk, you know, do a protest. in any sort of way. So it's at that core. Who are you practicing to be there? Because who you practice to be is who's going to show in an extreme environment. So if you're always practicing to be mellow, no matter what much heat, you might lose your cool, you might be sad, but you're not going to react. But if you're practicing to be an asshole, your asshole's going to come out easily.
I've always said in my coaching philosophy, if we had to put a title on it, and we were talking about it on our podcast the other night. We had a former player of mine on Champions Corner, and he talked about how hard I was on everybody and how, I would verbally, get after him. And he said he didn't know, that at that point, that was the thing when he first started, when he signed with us at 14, he said, "You're old school, coach," and we all, it wasn't for everybody. He mentioned some players you ran off and but there was a core to my philosophy, and he knew that. There was a phrase, though, if you put my culture in a program and have to title it, 3 words: I love you. I love you. I love you enough to hold you accountable. I love you enough to let you know when you're not doing the right thing. I love you. And my players, a lot of them weren't happy with me because I was hard on them. I owed them that.
Yeah.
I owed them loving them.
Yeah.
Look what they've given me over the years. They gave me 2 championships. I loved my players. And that's what's lost in this battle out there in the public between, let's say, the left and the right, the ability to love. I love my conservative friends as much as I love my left-wing friends. And we tell each other, my brother here, Phil, the thing that we say to each other the most, and we say it to each other every day. Every day. I love you, brother. Every day, no joke. Multiple times a day. If we're on the phone, we end it with "I love you, brother." If we're in person, we end it with "I love you, brother." We've lost that. That's the form of spirituality that we have to embrace when we talk about, when I say what's the difference between spirituality and religion. The difference is with spirituality, there's love there. With religion, there's rules. And we kind of get lost with each other, which is what we see every day out there.
You know what Carson always says, I never got a "love you, brother" from the coach, so it's kind of like the comment section, right?
Yeah.
I must follow the second circle or something.
Hey,
That's why, coach, a lot of times I don't say that
If
stuff.
you don't know, hey, listen, if you don't know I love you, then that's on me. I apologize for that. Because I thought you would know that I love you.
I'm just talking shit. I said, brother,
But it's the truth. The Creator gave me the blessing. He blessed me with the ability to love people.
Yeah.
Now, my philosophy is always, if someone lets you down and they don't love you, I just go like this.
Yeah.
They don't exist anymore. I don't wish them ill will. I'm not mad at them. I don't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Just go, man.
You know what,
I've broken hearts in my life.
You know what? MoveOn.com. That's my mantra. MoveOn.com.
MoveOn.com, exactly. And so that's the thing where if we handle our issues with love, it doesn't mean we're not a hard ass. That doesn't mean we're soft. That doesn't mean, but there's that bonding. And when we're across the aisle and we have to work for him and him to make his life better and his life better for their families, and we refuse to talk to each other or dislike with each other, there's a breakdown. There's a breakdown. And the breakdown is, if you say to me, "Believe like me," or "We can't talk," or I go to you, "Believe like me," or "We can't talk," there's a breakdown, and his family suffers, and his family suffers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the challenge. The challenge is when you love somebody, you trust them. You know what I'm saying? You trust they're not going to screw you in the back. You trust that they're going to be loyal. You trust that they're going to do the things that, they need to do. My players know I love them because I told them that all the time. Right after maybe I had to put a foot up in their ass.
Yeah.
But I knew that when my players walked off the field, they knew I had their back. They knew that, that's the reason why they accepted it. you would see other teams come in and the coach would get on them during the game and it'd be an argument. You know, but with us, you know, you'd see coach get it and our guys ignored it. You know what I'm saying? They ignored it. And so that's the thing where what separates you from the other people is because you're a man of love. We've talked about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're a man of compassion.
Yeah.
We've talked about it.
Yes.
You know, you're a man of spirituality. We've talked about it.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's where we need our people to be different. That's where the opportunity comes in and says, you know what? We can do something here that's completely different than what the solutions that they're pushing out there.
And the cool thing, the change about this is crazy, right? So I was sitting with one of my good friends today, you know, talking about life, and he graduated in 1995 in Mississippi. He's top Fed agent, owns a company today. And you know what's crazy is he told me in 1995 they still rode in two different buses, a white bus and a black bus, in 1995. So I graduated in 97. I didn't even think that was possible.
Yeah. In high school, where I went to high school in the 80s, okay, we went to a basketball game. And our school was a powerhouse in New Jersey in basketball. You know, when you went to a basketball game, one side was all black, one side was not. Back in the 80s, I mean, it wasn't like the school went black over here, non-black right here. It was just the way it was, you know, and so, yeah, that's pretty powerful. When that guy says to you, hey, there was still, you know, there was blatant division.
Yes.
You know, in the 90s, that's...
All you have to do is watch that 30 for 30 series of the Lakers and the Celtics. They talked about the racial division in the 80s when Magic versus Bird. I mean, they characterized the Lakers as, you know, that was the different divide between black and white in the 80s. And you think, oh, this is the 50s and 60s, yeah. But those things still, you know. I mean, Martin Luther King said that some of the poorest places that he even traveled to was in the North that he saw racism. So just racism just doesn't exist in one place, in one geographic region. Unfortunately, even here in New Mexico yesterday, hate exists everywhere, sadly.
I was a fan of their music back in the 80s and early 90s. Public Enemy, man. When you listen to the lyrics of their songs, they were ahead of themselves. Like, their songs are, it's hard to imagine that 30 years later, their songs are more significant today than they were yesterday. Not just Fight the Power, you know what I'm saying? And they were talking about in the power structure that they had to deal with, but they were talking about, and all of their lyrics and all of their songs was all about, you know, oppression.
Yeah.
You know, and 30 years ago, they were young people, you know, singing about oppression, and it's hard to believe that in today's day and age it still exists. But the thing that I loved about their music was they were saying, don't be victims. You know, like, don't be a victim. I was talking in the interview today over at ESPN, and I was saying, when he was saying, does native nicknames bother you? And I said, no, but I don't speak for the native community.
No.
They don't bother me because I've been trained in football to have thick skin.
Yes.
And to overcome.
Yes.
So it doesn't bother me because I don't give it power.
You don't give it power. And I think that's a good topic there, Coach. It's like me, I was trained by two of the greatest militaries in the world. My martial arts background, you know, that thick skin. But the one thing we got to have compassion, me and you, is that the majority of our people, our brothers and sisters, don't have that thick skin.
Weren't trained like us.
No. So for them, it affects them majorly, right? Where it could throw their whole psyche out.
Hurts them. They're in pain.
And I think that what I've learned now and later on in my life is that I've had more of that compassion in the sense that I feel so I can feel for them, even though for me it's not the same. Like, I'm like, oh, go screw it. You know, it's like, go bake the bread.
Right.
Who gives a shit what that person thinks?
And that's what I said. Just because it doesn't offend me doesn't mean it's not offensive. I've been trained in football to have thick skin. If people are offended by it, we got to get rid of it. If people are hurt by it, we got to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that people don't understand, I was explaining, was that, okay, let's say they talked about the Skins, the Blackhawks, the Cleveland Indians, and I said, what people don't really understand from the native community sees the people who wear the costumes and the headgear and the feathers and and this and that, and even though their intent might be to support their team, they're shitting on native culture. And that's not acceptable anymore.
I think in some of those people's team, Coach, I think I'll agree this. I think with them, they're not. Sal, yeah, you're bring out soon. I think with them, Coach, I think what's really going on with them is, like myself, they're not really. We know it's a sacred thing, but the feathers to them meant power. A lot of people's like power, right? And it's like cool, kind of like Phil Jackson. Because when I see a warrior like that, it makes you based on the stories how powerful it was. You know what I mean? So I think I told you about our good friend from Canada that had come in. His name was Tuka Tinkin, and he would put on the whole war paint. He came from a warrior tribe, and I can't remember what the tribe he came from, but it was a very powerful message. You know what I mean? That he would show.
That powerful message that he would show.
Showing to the rest of us, and I think that's why I've always told you, it's so weird to me that the native community has been brought down when they were such warriors. Like when you look at that straight warrior, it wasn't like there was a couple of badasses. There was like tribe against tribe. And you think about it, the only way that they were defeated was based on lies.
The term is called genocide. Is what the term is. That's the reason why when we talked about it last week, and I brought it up on the radio and I brought it up on this show, which was the genocide worked so well that you're seeing videos now of abuse from 5 and 6 years ago, and no one's brought up DAPL. No one's brought that up, where they have it on video and where it shows law enforcement opening up war on those young people up there. That's how well the genocide has worked. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so that's the thing where just because it doesn't bother me, because I refuse to be a victim, doesn't mean that it ain't, that it's not wrong. So if there's natives out there that say, yeah, that offends me when I see that white person wearing a headdress at a football game, that offends me, and that is offensive. We talked about, like, one of the things that always offended me was the tomahawk chop, that the Atlanta Brave fans do, or the fluff. Ooh, Sebastian and I have gotten into, arguments about that when I say that is so offensive that the number one merchandising product of the Atlanta Braves is a bone tomahawk. Because what's the perception it's giving, for our culture? It's a cartoon. Like, I'm a cartoon ready to go on the warpath. And the only thing missing is the big drum, and some of them have it. It's cartoonish. And it is offensive. And it's 2020. So that's why when he had said, does Native Americans fall under BLM? And I went, absolutely. It's time. Like when they talked about the generals of the South, when they talk about, should we take them off the military bases? What do you think? What was the principles? What was the principles of the statues in the South to show we had power over you? Of the people of the South. Those principles weren't for people in the North and the East and the West. They're people from the South saying, we're going to glorify what the Confederacy was about. We're not going to change our lifestyle. We're going to glorify it. And in 2020, people are so smart nowadays. Young people are so smart nowadays. Young people are out there saying, enough is enough.
Yes.
And I can't tell you how proud I am of the young people that are saying is enough. And so that's the thing. You brought somebody in studio, man, and you've always brought great guests in. Let's bring them in.
This is a really special guest. I'm gonna do a little introduction for him. So this is Al Shulman, and so Al is literally one of my first mentors. And I talk about, I talk the mind, body, spirit. So you see Al here, I met him up in Taos when I was looking for a trainer. And the funny story was, I always tell him, was he was the largest human I'd ever seen before, right, in life. This guy talked about, today, I've never been able to match his tricep extensions. He was doing up to like 160-pound dumbbell tricep extensions. I got up to about 130. So I think this guy put me through the ranks and taught me a lot. He taught me a lot when it came a lot to bodybuilding, which I literally lay down and say what was the groundwork to my success. So I'll let him take it from here. And Al,
The legendary Al Showman, he has talked to me about you for a number of years. You brought up
Yes.
Al to me
Yeah.
for a number of years. Welcome to the Truth Podcast, man. Welcome to the grill.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. And now you can hear my side of the story. I don't know what he's told you. But I owned a gym and a health food store in Farmington, New Mexico. And I had one in Mexico. So I traveled back and forth between the two. I competed in the bodybuilding contests around the state. Clark Sanchez was then the promoter. So I never was in a competition that I didn't place. I didn't win them all, but I placed. And I did, the open class. And because I'm not as young as I used to be even then, I did over 35, which is a class. So you have your regular kids up to 34. And then when you turn 35, there's a class all to itself. So I would go the open, which is anybody, and then I would go over 35, and then sometimes if I could find one of my students, especially at the gym, we'd do mixed pairs, which is a guy and a girl doing a routine together. So I had a lot of fun with it. It's a lot of work for 2 minutes on stage, and a lot of starvation and dehydration and all kinds of things of that nature. But I've kept it up. I've been laid off for about 3 years. I had 4 shoulder operations over the last 3 years. So they've replaced my right shoulder 3 times, and then they've replaced the left one once, and a knee. So I will say that unfortunately when I was in it, more was better. Now since then we have found out that more weight is not better. More repetitions,
Right.
more strictness in your form, that type of thing is better. So now instead of doing, a 500-pound, well, I did 600-pound squats. Now I'll do 225 with, lots and lots of reps.
How about that? What they've really improved on now is the recovery aspect of it nowadays when it comes to more is better. Obviously, more is better because you train more and this and that. But when you're training more and you don't recover,
Right.
then you're tearing down. And so, how was it that your replacements in your shoulders and knee? How's that been for you? A lot of a struggle.
I just got on my Harley this weekend, first time in 3 years. Matter of fact, the tags are still
Congratulations.
3 years old.
Congratulations.
Because the shoulders, you'd get one fixed, and by the time it got good, then they had to take it out and do it again. There was some infections, and they had to do that 3 times on the right side. So I couldn't ride the bike. And then in December, they did the other shoulder this year. So I got on it this weekend and rode up to Madrid and just took a nice little cruise just to see if I could control the bike. And it was good. It was actually really good.
People don't realize, I was a weightlifter my whole life. The general could show you a picture of Coach in the back in college, and I don't lift anymore because my shoulders are shot. What people don't realize is that with old athletes, it's the shoulders that go. They think it's a knee or but it's the shoulders that go with us old football players who spent a lifetime of, pushing and doing those things. And it's quite painful
Oh,
on the shoulders. I can't do push-ups anymore.
No.
As strong as I was, I can't do push-ups anymore because my shoulders hurt too much.
Yeah, I looked like a Tyrannosaurus Rex at the end. I couldn't straighten my arms out. I couldn't lift them over past my shoulder. I mean, I couldn't come up parallel past that without pain. So there was a lot of stuff I just couldn't do. Now I'm back. I have my own little gym set up in the back of my store. I have a little jewelry and bead store. And so I try to work out 5-6 times a week, and it's just light and lots of reps. And anything right now anything that I can do that doesn't hurt to a point, that's where I'm at now. So the old days, we'd get up and work out at 4:30 in the morning and then come back at 5 in the evening and do a second workout.
Right.
So it's changed.
We talked about it, I believe, when you were letting us know, Jack, that Al was coming back. Who was the weightlifter that we saw on Netflix? He was 8-time Mr. Olympic.
Ronnie Coleman.
Ronnie Coleman. And see how Ronnie Coleman walks today. Is mind-boggling to see. And yet he still gets in that gym, though. Still does a little bit of things in that gym. Now, you obviously must have been a phenomenal mentor because you've had such an influence on the general. Give us a look back. How old was the gen when you started working with him?
How old were you? That was, 30. 15 years old. He would drive up from Espanola, Penasco, on Saturdays, and we'd catch a workout. And sometimes we'd do 2 body parts so that he could get it in, and he'd take what he'd learned home and work on it. Was there a gym in Penasco?
I took over the high school gym. Remember, I convinced him to let me in the gym.
There you go. So he could still continue, because once a week doesn't do you any good. It just tears you down, and then you're sore for 4 days, and then about the time you get over soreness, it's time to do it again, and it doesn't work.
And so this mentor comes along in your life. What was it about him that affected you?
This is what I'm telling you the story about Al. So when I was just literally, I'd faced a big injury, right? I got out of the military. I had a big. This was after. So when I met Al, I wanted to get into bodybuilding, and at the point in my life, there was a lot of failures, right, that I had been seeing. And so I remember walking into Furs and picked up a magazine, and it says, "Do you have what it takes to be a bodybuilder?" And at that point in my life, I needed to make some changes, right? And so I pick up this magazine, and I look at it, and it says, and there was this Muscle Media. It wasn't Muscle Media. It was Muscle Media, and there was a guy out of Albuquerque who had started this nutrition company, and they were having this contest, and you needed to get a fat test for this whole thing done, right? And so I go on this mission, and I call the local clinic, and I said, "Can you do this?" You got to imagine, I'm broke as shit. I'm only 15 years old. I'm sweeping stuff to make $60.
15.
So they call me in. She says, "Yeah, come on in." So I go into the local clinic. She charges me $58 to tell me that she can't do it. And I'm just like, should I just give up? There's this give ups, right? And so at the time, then I said, this is bullshit. So I'm pretty pissed off. And so I go to another clinic. You'd think that I'd done the first time. And the same guy, a doctor comes out and says, "You know what? I can't do this," but he doesn't bill me. But I told him, "Look, if you can't do this and you pull me back here and tell me you can't do it, I'm not paying." And so he kind of laughed and said, "Okay, right?" And he's all, well, you need to figure something else. So I'm going down, I'm thinking, what the hell? So my mom grew up with a guy named Mick Sopin, and they used to sell apples against each other and stuff, right? And so I remember her mentioning it, that he was his bodybuilder. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So I'm driving, and I see this place, and it's called Town Spa. You imagine, I'm broke as shit. I'm this kid, I'm broke.
15.
And I'm looking in this gym, and I'm thinking, man, this is where the rich people go. I'd never seen something like this. So I walk in, and there's Al, and he's lifting weights. And this is a true story. He's the largest human I've ever seen.
Wow.
He had a long tail, and this guy was massive, right? So I'm looking across, and I said, that guy knows what the fuck's going on. None of this little Pee Wee Hermans. So I remember he's in there, he's in with another tall guy, and they're training, and I just step in. And I said, "Hey, can you do a fat composition?" And he's like, "Yeah, I can do that," right? He says, $15. You remember that? So he goes in, I said, "Okay, I can do that." So he puts the thing, armband, he does a few calipers, goes down, and he says, "So you're at." I'm thinking around this, and I'm like, I said, "Hey, what would it take you to train me?" And he says, "Well, training here is $300 a week or something like that." A month, yeah. And so think about this. I'm like, I need this. I don't have this. So I said, okay, deal. I shake his hand. I don't have the $300. So I go home and I said, you know what? I literally plead to my mom and said, I need a loan. She knows this. This is my goal. At the time I was getting a lot of migraines. They had me on all kinds of medications. They're going to fuck up my life, literally. And I said, I got to get this. So she says, I went to this Tao spa and she says, isn't the owner a guy named Mick Sopin? And I said, I don't know. He says, it's a Ukrainian guy. I said, no, I met this guy with the ponytail. And I said, the name's Al. He says, okay, I'll give you the loan. So I go in, sign up for $300 for a month to come in, and I start training this guy. So I don't know if you remember this, it's summertime, and I go every single day for that week. The first day he has me in there, I take a shit 3 times and throw up 3.5 times, no bullshit. And the half time is I throw up in my mouth and I swallowed it, right? So it's that. But I wouldn't give up. And it was crazy. So we get through all these workouts at the end of the week, and I said, well, you know what? I said, I want to thank you for everything you showed me. I'm going to do this. And I said, but I don't, I can't afford to pay anymore because I'm really a broke ass kid, to be honest with you. He looks at me and he says, you know what? I'm not going to train you more. Why don't you come live with me? But you can help me around doing some stuff. And he had like all kinds of businesses. So I started rolling with him. And literally the level of ability that I jumped in 60 days was just ridiculous. Then he started getting me into bench press contests. And he said, start doing this. So what I'm doing is he's teaching me, and then I'm going to Espanola. That's why he thought. So then I'm going to Espanola, and all the guys that used to talk shit and all that, I'm terrorizing them. Because he's having me eat. He says, buy a lunchbox. And I said, what for? He says, you need to make 8 sandwiches. And he's from the old school powerlifting days. This isn't the new shit you see today. Like he says, more is less. So I'm eating 8 sandwiches, about to throw up. And he has me on all these mass gainers. We load up. But this is no bullshit. He takes a before picture, and at night, it's like 60 days. It's something pretty quick. I'm literally like changing to a whole different human. But the whole time, I never tell him I'm 15 years old, so I think he thinks I'm like 18 years old, right? And we create this amazing friendship. And so I trained. How long did I train with you? Like a year, a couple years?
Yeah, a year and a half probably.
Yeah, a year and a half.
Yep, every weekend.
Yep.
After the first.
Yeah, after the week.
First week, yeah.
And I would never be late because he would get up early as hell. But you gotta imagine this. In Penasco, when the snow hits between the canyon, people don't realize this, but we're higher than Taos.
Wow.
Right? So when the snow hits, I had this escort, and I would put chains in the front so that I could make it to the workout because I didn't want to miss what I could learn. And it was just freaking just pretty powerful. But I put you a couple of pictures, John. Did you get those pictures?
Yeah.
Look, I want to show you the picture. Tell me, this is the other one. Look over here. You sent me this out. How old were you in this picture right here?
68.
68 years old. Yeah. This is another one. I want to send it. Look at this.
That was just before the operations.
You got to touch yourself to this, John. So this is telling you when people are like, you know what, I'm going to give up life, I can't get shit done. This is 68 years old. What is there to talk about, right?
And the kid standing next to me, and everybody can see that picture?
Yeah.
The kid standing next to me in that picture is my son. So I started him when he was 3 years old. And of course that didn't last long, he's a 3-year-old kid and I realized it, but he wanted to come in the gym, be with dad and all that. Well, after he got his freshman year in high school, we took him down to Nimi. He was living with his mom in Cuba, New Mexico, which they didn't feel the school, or she didn't feel as a teacher there that it was the best school system in the world. So he chose to go to Nimi, and I went down and visited, and then got in the gym there and went through the whole gym and showed him what to do. So I made about 3 trips so that he was well trained, well versed, and he's just taken it and gone great guns with it from there.
So there we got Al there.
That was 3 years ago. I was 67. No, I was 66. And that's my little gym in the back of my store. And I was doing pretty good. And like I said, now I'm trying to get it back. As you can imagine, not being able to lift for 3 years takes a toll. And it doesn't seem, for some odd reason, I have no idea what it is. It doesn't seem to be as easy to get it back as it used to be.
Well, father time.
Yeah, yeah.
To have that effect on all of us. So I heard something because I have a young son that he's going to be a sophomore. He's a quarterback, and this is a struggle of how much to lift. And I took really hard what you just said because, and the more and more research I do, it should be about more reps, less weight, and putting less stress on those joints.
Well, and he has to be agile. I didn't have to be agile. I pick it up, set it down, walk to the next station, pick it up, set it down. I mean, we rode bikes when I was in Farmington every night, and then on the weekends we'd go on a 30-mile bike ride with a bunch of the people from the gym. So I kept my cardio up and things of that nature, and I taught yoga. I had a gym with a studio for yoga and aerobics and things like that. So I taught 3 yoga classes a week just so I'd make myself stretch out. Because you hear that muscle bound thing. Well, I mean, you can get big enough to where you just can't physically put your arm in positions or whatever because your muscles are just get in the way. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
John, I want you to throw that other picture up too. I want to talk because as I was talking, I want to add to this. The other picture.
This.
2 guys. So how did you get into this lifestyle,
I was 14 years old and I weighed, 90 pounds.
Yeah.
And I was being picked on a lot. I wore glasses. So somebody gave me a single dumbbell, one of the old cement plastic coated dumbbells. And I moved it every way that I knew how. And then we moved to Albuquerque, and I literally took 4x4s and sunk them in the ground, put a little notch in them so I could put a bar on it, and went out and bought a used set of weights and put a little wooden bench underneath, in between it, and I did all my exercises out there. And a funny story, I went to work at a warehouse here in Albuquerque, and the guy that worked there, his name was Felix, and he said, I can show you what to do. You're just killing yourself, because I work out every day. I didn't know. I mean, they weren't teaching stuff like that. I was like Jack. I didn't have a lot of money. I was still in high school. And he turned me around and taught me about muscle groups and how to do it and when to do it and what have you. And so from there, my uncle, back then there was a place here in town called Tom Young's Health Spa. It was up on Wyoming and Indian School. So he had a janitorial service. So he traded his membership, which all he did was sit in the jacuzzi. He had a bad back and some things, and got me in for free. And then those guys worked with me. And from there, I just took off and then I did powerlifting. That's just what I did. I changed to bodybuilding when I moved to Farmington because nobody wanted to bodybuild. Nobody wanted to powerlift. They wanted to be pretty. And I'm like, okay, I can change to that. I don't care. So I had to do some studying and reading up on it, go with that. So that's what I did. And then they talked me in. Some of the guys in the gym talked me into doing my first contest. And after that, it just became, the contests were more about being seen because they put you in the paper in Farmington. It was a small town at the time. So you'd get all this advertisement for free. Local kid, your local guy, I was 33, local guy goes to competition and places this and does this and so on and so forth. And they put my gym in there. It was Al's gym, original. And it just would help my memberships. So that was part of the bodybuilding thing. I mean, I had, 20, 25 trophies. And when I sold the gym and the health food store, I just left them in the window and walked away. Because I didn't do it for that. I did it for my basic health.
Yeah. And so what were some of the competitions that you went in? Were they national competitions? Regional? Where did you advance?
Okay, the last competition I was Mid USA, which was here in Albuquerque, and I qualified for nationals. And I did what I did with proteins and lots of food and, watching my diet. Took tons of vitamins. I owned a vitamin store. So anytime a new supplement would come in, I'd order it in and try it. And if it worked, then I'd put it on the shelves and sell it to people. I didn't want to sell them stuff that, was just a hype. So I qualified for that, and one of the judges said, you've got real potential and you can go to nationals and I can get you on stage and placed for $5,000. And I'm like, yeah, I just had a kid and yeah, I'm not doing $5,000. And then later I found out he was talking about steroids. And I'm like, yeah, I'm staying away from that. It's not something that I don't want to do it that bad. I don't want to, even then they were having cancer and testicular shrinkage and going bald and having acne and all these wonderful
Die young,
things.
die hard, Diana Ball.
There you go. And so I just opted out of that and just stayed local after that.
So I want to touch something. So put these two guys back up real quick. And one of the new things that we've learned, on the left-hand side is Michael Hearn, and the other guy is Robin Robinson. Michael Hearn's 51 years old, and this guy's 74 years old. And so what they do is a combination, is they say we're not bodybuilders, we're power lifters, and it's talking about the full motion range and what's going on. And one of the things is that, so when you put out there, it doesn't matter the age. You saw Al at 68 years old. So when people are making the excuses, well, I can't do this, I'm too old, or all that, that's just what the whole YM mindset's about, mind, body, spirit. So my personal thing is, I've been back in the training game, starting as, and so my whole thing is like, that's my goal right there. I hit 50 years old, 51, so I want to be. One of the crazy part is when I started training with Al, I think were you 45 now or were you 40?
40.
So my age now, training a 15-year-old, and I do that. I train Cameron Cervantes. And that's kind of like that whole pay it forward and teaching people. But I truly believe the fundamentals of bodybuilding and this whole thing is what really gave me the ability to get to the next level.
The discipline.
The discipline was just, it doesn't matter. And so I remember I pissed off a college professor when I graduated engineering school, and I mentioned Al, and they said, I won the Young Entrepreneur in the U.S. award. And they're like, what got you here? And I said, well, what's crazy is it was powerlifting. One guy was all insulted. And I said, well, no, that's kind of gave me the fundamentals. The school came to me easily. It's like a second thought to me. But the bodybuilding taught me that ethic. If you put something, you want it hard enough, and you apply yourself every single day, you're going to get it. That's what's awesome about bodybuilding, right?
Al, what was it that you embraced the lifestyle? Young guy, a young kid, 14, start, on your own. It's an amazing story. You being, ingenuity, and hey man, I'm gonna put these posts down, carve this out, put my, my barbell, wear my barbell. What was it about that lifestyle that empowered you to become, it led you to become a mentor and a teacher and a...
I saw the confidence. I didn't have any. I had acne real bad as a kid, and like I said, I was kind of thin. Skinny would be the other word. And every time that I made gains, and every time I learned more, it just said, okay, there's another level. It's not like you ever have to stop, because there's always another level. And as you get older, that level isn't as high as it was when I was 32, because I can't push that weight anymore. The shoulders now, they said, don't go over 200 pounds. So I don't, just because I'm not going to, the operations were no fun.
Sure. So
I don't want to go back there again. And I don't need at this point to, what's the word I want to say? I don't need to pick up a ton of weight, or I don't have a gym anymore, but it opened doors. My whole life it opened doors. When I would walk in as a salesperson with a collared shirt, pullover and jeans and whatever I was, depending on what I was selling, and they go, I don't know if I want to talk to them, and the secretary or the guy that I talked to first would go, you might want to talk to this guy. Just because, people realize at least in their minds, what they think it takes to get where I was at. So there's dedication, there's, you know, it's like finishing high school or finishing college. Okay, you went through all this, so you're worth something to listen to, right? And I mean, I got jobs, I bounced for 13 years, and in 13 years, I only hear one person. They'd walk in and I'd talk to them and they'd go, yeah, okay. Because, you know, and I'm only 5'10", I'm not a really tall guy. However, the width and the girth and all that, it just made it to where they were, you know, not interested in that. So it opened and opened and opened doors.
You know, as John had mentioned about his son, I have a young son too, going into his junior year.
Okay.
And I showed him just yesterday a video of Brett Favre, because I'm always trying to show, you know, just read this passage, look at this video, do whatever. And I didn't discover that Brett Favre had said this on camera until like a week ago, and I said, my son's got to show this. He said there's not an athlete that's ever been through where he has said, I can't run another sprint. I can't lift another weight. I can't jog another step. I can't study anymore. And it's at that very moment, what do? How do you handle that? At that very moment. And he said, there's nothing anybody can tell me at that very moment of what's inside of me.
Yeah, you know that you can't quit.
And in yours, every rep that you try to do, you know, to develop what you develop, to develop your body, develop your mind, spirit, and, you know, what was that about you that you said, I got to do another rep? You know, I got to, even at, you know, as a mature, you know, bodybuilder, what was it about you that said, I have to do another rep? I can't, you know, like, I'm not going to give into it. At that, like I said, Favre goes at that very moment. What are you going to do?
You decide that, I mean, it becomes a lifestyle. I mean, the first time I got married, we went to Mexico for vacation, or for honeymoon. First thing we did was check into the room. Second thing we did was wander around Mazatlan looking for a gym. That was the second thing. And it has always been that way for me. You know, if I'm going to go someplace, you know, my wife now goes, okay, I found a hotel or a motel or whatever, and they've got a workout area.
To this very day.
So let me see the workout area. They got a picture of it. Oh yeah, that one's horrible. It's, you know, 3 bicycles and a treadmill. Well, that ain't gonna work. So we basically
go look for the local gym.
Yeah.
Where do you think your life would be today if you didn't buy into that lifestyle as a young whippersnapper?
Well, I have an addictive personality because I'm addicted to weights, obviously. That was where all of my energy went. I mean, could have been maybe in other places financially than I am now. But when you get up at 4 and work out and then come back to the gym and work out and then travel a bit and go to contests, all your time's taken up with one goal, which having a gym and a health food store fed into that. So that was an entrepreneurial thing that allowed me to at least stay in that atmosphere as much as I wanted. If I hadn't done that, it's really hard to say. I mean, with an addictive personality, I mean, I guess I was a mechanic for a long time. I could have raced cars because I like speed, you know, the fast kind, not the other. And for a while, I broke horses, and my dad and I had a few head, and we would work that so I could have ranched. I've got 50 acres up in Mora, New Mexico, and I had thought about going up there and building a cabin and just kind of, you know, kicking back. I mean, as a fact, I was deputy sheriff in Mora, and they gave me the keys to like they did with Jack, to the high school gym, because I lived in a little bitty cabin that I built with no running water, no electricity. So they gave me the keys to the gym so I could go take a shower. I moved a bunch of my weights into their gym, and I started training the kids.
Wow.
And they knew when I came in every day, my hair, like Jack said, I had hair down to the middle of my back. And when I went in, I told the sheriff when he hired me, I said, I'm not cutting my hair off for the amount of money they were paying. And he says, I'm the sheriff. I make the rules. I don't really care. So one night we had got into, they called the local mall, which was a 7-Eleven in Mora, and a bunch of guys were hanging out, and there was some conflict starting. And I roll up in my unit and get out, and I walk over, and 4 guys braced me, or confronted me at the front doors. And the one guy looked at me, and he took a step forward, and of course, you don't know what's happening. And he said, I want to shake your hand. And I'm like, okay. So we shake hands, and he says, I don't want my little brother to be where I'm at. And he tells me you're training him 3 or 4 times a week. So you won't have any problem with us. So, I mean, it just, doing like what I did with Jack and helping, tons of other people over the years, it has come back to me in friends.
Right.
It's not a financial reward. It's a friend thing.
Sure. Looking back on, it's pretty phenomenal that you're giving back and empowering young people. That's my motto, is always about empowerment. As you and I both, I give the example, are on the backside of that mountain. The front side, we've lived that now. Now we're on the backside of the mountain. What did you see in a young Jack V that when he came to you and said, okay, I got the, and that sounds like Jack, like, Mom, I want to borrow. What did you borrow? A week's worth of fees? Did you give him the whole 300?
Yeah, right away.
And then after a week, you went, I'm going to do this myself. I've got his system now. It sounds like a young Jack V. Hill. I got this system. I'm done. I'm going to do this. What did you see in a young Jack that went, you know what? I'm going to invest in him?
Well, one of the things you learn as a trainer is a week isn't going to do it. I can teach him the basics, and that'll last him for 2 or 3 months. Then it's time to change it all up. So where's he going to learn to do that? And he had, anybody that throws up and does all the things he went through with our first week's worth of intensity, he had staying power. And I used to tell people, if I train you, and I'm not charging you, even in my gym, I didn't charge for personal training. Don't waste my time. Do what I tell you to do. Don't waste my time. And when I put weights on the bar, don't tell me you can't do it.
Yeah.
It's amazing the insight that I had as a trainer. I'd say, okay, you can do another 15 pounds. Oh my gosh, that's more weight than Don't argue with me. Put the weight on the bar and do it. And I would say 90% of the time, they would do it the first time they hit it on the bar. But that's just something that because you've been through it. And I remember when I was doing 135-pound bench presses, and this guy walked up to me at Tom Young's, and he goes, dude, how many of those are you doing? 20. He said, well, put another plate on. 225 pounds from 135. I said, no. I said, I don't want to get crushed. He says, I'll spot you. Go ahead. You'll be surprised. And I got 2 reps. And from that point on, it was like, somebody has to challenge you. If nobody challenges you, then what are you going to do? Where do you go from there? And so when people would, and I'm not the nicest guy in the world in the gym. It's serious to me if you're in there, So I'd be working with you, counting your reps and making sure you're doing the form right. And then I'd look across the gym and somebody over there was schlocking it up and poor form, and I'd yell across the gym, hey, I didn't show you how to do it like that. You remember how I showed you how to do it? Because I'll come over there and show you again. That ain't the right form. First of all, you're wasting your time. And second of all, you could get hurt. And people knew that about me. And people appreciated that I took an interest. And I don't care if you were, I had a TV show for a while in Farmington. And I brought in the bicycle club. I brought in the aerobics instructresses. I brought in anything that had to do with physical, because there's that attitude that, well, weightlifting's boring. Okay, fine. It can be boring. It's the same thing over and over and over again. Okay, the non-boring part is adding the weight and changing it up and what have you. But I don't care what you do, as long as you're active. Longevity comes from keeping yourself in shape. So if you want to be a bicyclist, you want to be a hiker, I did rappelling. That's not stressful, I mean strenuous, but you got to hike up to the top and you got to do all the things. You're still moving your body. So as long as you wanted to do something and people would write in, well, I want to do this. Sometimes I'd have to research it. And I'd go around and find somebody that did it that knew more than me. And I'd just host the show and hand them the mic and say, here, show them what's done.
There's no doubt that training or how specialized it's gotten.
Oh, my.
Sports specialized how it's gotten. There's no doubt there's been improvements. But one of the things that I think that we've gone too far with is exactly what you talked about. Coaching with intensity, coaching with firmness. Nowadays trainers are like, you can do this.
Oh, yeah, no.
Oh, and what it's done is, we talked about it a little bit before about the training aspect and how it can kick in your skin and how it's always about overcoming and, overcoming yourself, overcoming the exercise, overcoming the weight, and sometimes, we've seen it growing up in our weight rooms when you're over them and going, let's go, you can get it, let's go, you can push it, push, and you get the team now, all of a sudden, and you get that energy going. And when that kid gets that last rep in, man, and you see that, yeah. We've lost that now. Like we've lost that, that charge, that fire, that intensity in a weight room. I tell players all the time, my son, bro, you don't develop intensity when you go to football camp. I'm gonna kick this guy's ass. I'm gonna do the. You don't do that your first night of your game. I'm gonna kick this guy's ass. I'm gonna do. You do that in November when your season ends or December, and you get your ass in a weight room. And that's the intensities developed in the weight room. That's developed January, February, March, April, May, June, July. When you get in that weight room, if you wait till football season, you missed it.
Right. You carry it over. You carry the intensity from the gym into whatever your sport is. I mean, I train golfers, and their thing was, well, I don't want to get my chest so big that I can't swing a club. And I literally would watch. I didn't know anything about golf. A big guy like me beating up a little white ball and then chasing it. I wasn't interested.
That would have been interesting to see.
He was. So I developed a high cable pole with a golf club. And I hooked a swivel on it and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, he would pull it down and swing it. He increased. He came in one day. He said, I can't believe how farther I'm hitting the ball. He said, because it's just, I said, it's strength. There are certain things that strength may not help you do. If you're a chess player, I don't care how strong you are. But if you're playing a sport where you're trying to go a little farther with golf, I'm assuming that that's a sport, then having the ability to hit it farther comes from form, which I didn't have any of because I didn't play golf. So I said, look, you just tell me if you can get the form you need from what I created, and if not, then we'll tweak my machine adaptation. It was just a hook on, for that. He's the only guy that ever used it, but he was the pro in Farmington, and so he was all happy with, smacking that ball around.
And I think one of the things, Coach, with Al, I think it was fundamentals, right? One of the things I started to see, after, I would say, going and training with him for about 90 days, I became his partner, and it was people were freaked out, right? Who the hell is, I was gaining the size. And I think it goes to the fundamental, what Carson was saying is that you literally surround yourself with successful people in whatever you want, right? So I'm here in Espanol, I'm training Espanol, I'm going to Santa Fe. There'd be guys that I would be I know this, I know that. But I was I'm training with Al. So in my mind, I was I was the top of the game. But my strength, let's fast forward 2 years when I turned 18 years old. I was 205 pounds, right? 6 foot when I graduated high school, freaking like steel. Then I grew up to about 215 pounds. And it's a lot different when you're a lot longer than you're a lot shorter, right? but there was nobody that could freaking move with me. I was freaking deadlifting 4 plates, 5 plates, stupid shit. But it's the stuff that we had built in those fundamentals. When we got there, I mean, when it came to shoulder pressing and bench pressing, I mean, I was destroying people. I mean, when I came to Albuquerque, and then we had rekindled, and I brought out, and I had another trainer, Luke, who trained me in the martial arts. I was benching 455, 6 reps like cheesecake.
That's serious weight,
Right.
man. That is
People would record me.
Makes my shoulders hurt thinking about
And
it.
so,
serious weight.
the power, and I've always had that power, but it was
Bend the bar weight.
it was those fundamentals that he taught me, right? And it was crazy because I was be like, okay, you know what? It was funny. We had the 5-4 rule, and so the 5-4 rule was, you know what? The most I do is 5 plates on a squat, 4 plates on a bench with a 25-pounder on a laugh, and that was my max. I'd see him, but I knew my limitation because it was like I started to develop some back issues. But I knew when it came to shoulders, biceps, and chest power, it was going to be game over.
The where I learned was in a gym, Broadway, New Jersey. I forget the name of the gym, but it was a gym. It was a sweatshop. It was a pump house, to where there was nothing luxury. There was no air conditioning. There were no fans. There wasn't anything. And yet, the biggest human beings in the world would go to this gym. And dust everywhere, it was a pump house. Where as a young guy, 14, 15, 16, 17, going there, went there for years, I'd hang in the corner where it was dark because there were these behemoths, pumping out, and they were always great with kids. Like they were always great with, hey man, hey kid, let's teach you. One of them probably gave me the greatest advice ever. I was about 18. I was big. I was bigger than, because I started lifting. My father, when he got me lifting, I was 12 years old. Whoa. And he came home one day, and he said, I had just turned 12, it was my birthday. And he said, all right, you turned 12 today, happy birthday, son. You're either going to develop your body or your mind from here on out. You're not the smartest kid in the world. So, it's exactly what he said to me. You're not the smartest kid in the world, so you're going to start running. And right there, he said, let's go. And never had run before. I'm 12 years old, it's my birthday. I wasn't exactly too happy to do it. And he said, let's go. Every time I think you're not going fast enough, I'm going to kick you in the ass. And that's literally what he would do. When I would go running, he'd kick me in the ass, like, boom, and I go, boom. I was a skinny kid with a big head. You can't tell guys I'm a big body, My head was big, my ears went outside my shoulders because I was a skinny kid. He bought a weight set with a bench that had the sand plastic weights, and he put it in the living room, which my mother wasn't too thrilled with. I'm 12 years old. And he said every night, 3 days, he gave me a 3-day routine. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I had to live in the living room while we were watching, what are they called? Primetime television, and it really worked. And I got stronger to the point where I graduated in weights. He had to move it to the cellar and get me real weights because the plastic, which was the happiest day in my mother's life because she used to complain to him all the time. When can I take these weights out of the living room and stuff? And so they make such a difference in guiding young men such as Jack. What do how do you feel with helping young people today? Like, where does that, and the number of people, what's your thought process on the number of young people you've helped in this world?
Oh my thought process on that?
Yeah.
Most of them have, some of them are the Facebook thing. I'm not big on computers. Again, not the smartest like you, the guy in the room. But I've reconnected with 4 or 5 of the guys from the old gym in Farmington. And one of the ladies that was one of my competitors, she competed in a bodybuilding. And they're all doing well. And I'm not saying it's just because they lifted weights, but they had discipline. You gotta have a lot of discipline to get on stage. And if you never go on stage, my son doesn't want to go on stage, doesn't care about it. He just wants to be in shape. Part of it was maybe 6-7 months ago, he says, I'm going to bench what you benched, which for me wasn't a big deal. It was 365. So he came into the gym and we loaded the bar up. I mean, just warm ups and all that. And he got it. And he was so happy. And I said, so now you need to put 5 on so you can beat the old man, you know? And whether or not he goes there.
How old is your son?
He's 33.
Okay, so he's still young.
Yeah, he works out still all the time. You know, he lived in LA. He left because of this fun stuff going around and moved back in with him and his girlfriend and his mom in Cuba. And he's a photographer.
Okay.
And he's done Arnold and he's done basketball players. And I mean, he's done magazine articles and he lived in Milan and did fashion. So he's good at what he does. Now he's planting alfalfa and they did their first cut on the weekend. So he's not afraid to change his routine. He's got the confidence, okay, I'm going to buy the seed. His mom has acreage. I'm going to seed it. I'm going to make some money doing that because I can't work, out of LA. I mean, what are you going to do, right? And he plans on going back, but he doesn't like it. You know, it's just where you got to be someplace that's metropolitan if you're going to be a successful photographer. So
I don't see Al. I just met you. I'm very impressed. You know, what's the future look like for you? I can't see you in a rocking chair, sitting in Morin, going, okay, look at that Cadillac that just went by.
No. Can't see the road from I'm on a mountain in between the valley. Yeah, no Cadillacs.
Mm-hmm.
There's a deer or an elk or whatever. I'm retired, as it were. I still have a property management type company, so I do that. I just got back I have a rental on the west side that I'm gutting the whole house and starting over. Added a bedroom and, just everything. And then I have my Al's Beads and Silver, which is, if you wanted to make, you guys were talking about Native Americans earlier, a big, huge portion of my business are Native Americans because they still make their own jewelry.
Where's your business located at?
2119 San Mateo Boulevard, just kind of down the street. So,
and what's it called?
Al's Beads and Silver. Another
Do you have
original.
A website?
I hope so.
Al's Beads and
Beads and Silver.
Let's get that out there on the screen.
I got a kid working for me now that's taking pictures and putting everything. He's a techie, and he's putting all that stuff on the website or trying to set it up or whatever. So there's some things, and the pandemic, he couldn't work. I wasn't allowed to be open, and so I had him do that as part of his sustenance. He could come in, you can be closed, you can take pictures, you can list stuff on the web or on the. He's constructing their website. I don't know, what's it say? Is there anything there? Not the one in.
I posted already in the lunch.
Okay, not the one in Phoenix.
You have a store in Phoenix too.
My best friend's name is Al, and his is Al's Beads and Silver Jewelry. So we both have, because people will come to Albuquerque and go, "Oh, are you and Al related?" And I said, "No, but I am the better looking one." But he's got a big shop up there. Albuquerque doesn't support what he's got. It's Phoenix.
Right.
He's got a huge, nice store. If anybody's in Phoenix, there also.
How often do you get to Albuquerque?
Who?
You? Are you?
I live here. I live up off
here full time.
Tramway. Yeah.
Okay. You live up in Northeast.
Right.
Heights. Yeah, nice. How many kids are you training these days? None? You retired from it?
I had a gal that worked for me that was my bookkeeper, and I trained her probably up until I started working with the shoulder problem. And we went to, you were talking about nobody yells at anybody, they don't give them, and there's a place in town that you can go and work out for next to nothing, but if you raise your voice at all, They throw you out. So I don't like the gym. I have a membership so that I can work legs because I don't have a leg press machine.
Okay.
So if I use it for the cost, I use it twice a week, I'm good. But her and I used to go there and work out. But right now I don't have a student or whatever you want to call it.
You want one?
We're gonna come reunited. We're gonna
Do you want one? Because that's what I'm looking for my son. My son's going into his junior year. The only thing missing from what he does is that weightlifting. You know, he's thick-skinned.
Well, that's good.
When we go out in the field, he's finishing up his second week of his vacation because we go out in the field 3 days, 1 day off, 3 days, 1 day off. And I specific train him to football. Nothing lifting, it's all technique, it's all, endurance, it's all this and that. And I go nuts on it.
So I'm assuming you
public park. It's a public park.
You played ball.
Yeah.
Okay, so I realize I just walked
Yeah.
into this one, so I didn't know what to really
Yeah,
expect.
I used to coach. There's a team here in town called the Duke City Gladiators, and this is my
Shrine.
homage, my shrine. And we were to professional indoor football, and we were champions the last 2 years.
Oh, very good.
And so my son he's my youngest, and he's got potential. He's 6'2", 270 pounds.
Good grief.
Going into his junior year, he's a thick kid. The only thing missing from his repertoire is that teaching in the weight room. That develops you that switch. If he gets that, he's unblockable on a football field. He started as a sophomore. And so he's going to be he's a lineman.
I thought you said he was a quarterback.
No, his son is a quarterback.
Oh, your son's, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So then, yeah, he can use, I wouldn't have his son do a lot of weight,
Yeah.
just so he doesn't lose that dexterity and what have you. But yours, if he's a
You're
lineman.
looking for a workout partner. You're looking for, the only thing missing from him being recruited big time is the weight room. At his high school, they didn't have a true strength and conditioning coach.
Right.
At his high school, and so he hasn't developed that. Where then COVID came, and it stopped him, and we didn't have access to anywhere to lift weights. And now that the gyms are opening up a little bit, I need to get him. He's got about 8 weeks of 6 weeks or 8
Prep
weeks
time
before it's time to go to camp. And I think that's, if I can get 60 days in with him, but I kick his ass on that aspect.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He needs someone else that has the credibility. I have the credibility. I even had to tell him, one time he was real sensitive. I got in his ass and he went, "I want to work with so-and-so." And I said, "You know what? You don't realize I was a strength and conditioning coach for 20 years for my high schools, that I coach. I've been coaching since '87. And so I was always the strength and conditioning coach. Even when I became a head coach, I was the strength and conditioning coach, and we would have our teams. The last time I was a high school head coach was the early 2000s. And I'll tell you what, I would have a 50-pound bag of creatine, a 50-pound bag of whey in our weight room underneath our table with 4 blenders on it. And half the team had to come in the morning and take their whey shake. The other half had to take their creatine shake. And then after, in the evening, they had to switch. And so they took, and it's an old, that doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, yeah, I still do creatine.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so
Doesn't have a lot of calories, so.
I put him on whey. I haven't put him on creatine yet. I put him on whey so he makes his own whey shake every day. But if you're looking for somebody to train, my man, you and I can have a conversation and work out something to where, I need a pro teaching him. That's what I need. I don't let anybody coach him on a defensive line because I'm a pro.
That's you.
Or offensive line. I'm a pro. I've been doing, but for you can train him like this guy.
I just hope I have enough weights left.
He is a novice.
Okay.
When it comes to that, he's a novice. That's why I need a pro to take this clay. It's got natural body strength. but he doesn't have this kind of strength.
Okay.
They're two different things. And so I need this, not powerlifting, because I want explosion in him. Because he can run, he can do some of the things. He's a basketball player at his size. And coaches marvel at his footwork, you know, as a basketball player. But he needs the discipline of an organized workout, and he needs, you know, someone that teaches him. And, you know, the body beautiful, I never worried about that stuff. You know what I'm saying? The positions that he plays, he don't need that powerlifting shit. You know, he just needs to develop that torso, develop, you know, the glutes, develop, you know, the things that he needs to develop. And along the way, if he does the curls for the girls, hey man, that's what makes it fun.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't need him going, you know, I just need him exploding. You know, that last thing that he has.
Well, we'll talk.
Yeah. You know, no doubt. If I can get him to be a Jack V. Hill when he's, you know, he's a great kid. You know, unfortunately, he's around coaches that are nowadays, I'm old school. You know, and so that voice gets tiresome. You know, when you're that old school and you need something fresh.
Well, I think one of the things, Coach, is I think even between me and Al, we can show him some stuff. You know, I know some explosive shit that I learned with this guy Luke.
Yeah.
That was we were working with them for explosiveness and kickboxing, right? Which that's where I took Cameron from last place to number 3 in the state in cross
Bro, I
country.
would love that because he does yoga every morning.
Yeah.
You know, but it's from a DVD that he does an hour of yoga every day. And the reason why I haven't doing that, when I was a young kid, I went to dance class. So I would be in this dance class with all females. I'd be and it'd be this big dude. I'd come home from college and to my hometown, and I would go to dance class just to develop the flexibility. So he's got an hour of yoga that he does every day, but I would love to get him to be water, you know, to be water, because I would love for him to learn that shit, because that is explosive stuff. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, going into his junior year, the clock is running.
Now, let me ask you this question from a perspective where you're at. When did you feel yourself starting to slow down in the weight room? If the shoulders wouldn't have gone out, did you feel a difference in the strength, or what was that for you?
You know, I was still squatting 405, benching around 3, which is 65 pounds down. And actually I looked, other than I like to eat more now than I used to, I looked as large, you saw the last picture, as I did when I was on stage. I would have had to trim down and do that kind of stuff, which I'm not used to.
No.
But I mean, I have 100-pound dumbbells. That's my max in store. And I could still use those then, you know, so you lose some strength, you know, but the energy level, and I think it has to do with gutting through, as you said. I got to get one more rep, you know, and if I'm supposed to do 4 sets of 8 and I get to my 4th set and I did 8 and they were like, okay, so I got to do another set now and I have to add 5 pounds on each 10 pounds and see how many I can get. And then that's where I start with the next time.
What was the age that you kind of felt that? Because I feel like when I saw you, you were like in your mid 50s, I think, or you were still killing it. Would you still say the power was there? Did you see a difference? When did you start to see a difference?
About 60.
About 60?
Yeah. You know, plus I was working 3 different businesses. Lots of hours.
Yeah.
Still hit the gym every day. Well, not every day. I'm sorry. That's not true. 5 to 6 days a week. Just depended on schedules.
Yeah.
And if that you can remember, Jack, you know, very unusual to have a 14, 15-year-old, you know, vomiting from their workout. And, you know, we used to say all the time with our high school guys. I remember I went on a recruiting trip. I was a football player. And I went on a recruiting trip to Clemson in South Carolina. And going into their weight room, state of the art. This was back in the 80s. State of the art. And the strength and conditioning trainer showed us, and each wall was 4-room building, huge, but they had spittoons, like a full spittoon from about this high down to the ground. And the first thing he did was pointed out the spittoons. And he said, that's where you throw up. If you throw up on my carpet, you go home. And it was the first time in my life where you would throw up, you had to get back in and not miss a rep. You know, high school, you throw up, oh, you're okay, go see the nurse, calm you down, let's get you some, water, let's get you this and that. But that next level, you know, you knew you threw up, you washed your mouth out, and you got back into reps. What was it about you that at that young age you knew that, hey man, I'm gonna throw up, but I can't miss?
Well, I think the thing with me is I grew up with a lot of discipline, right? You meet my mom, I mean, that's a whole different level. So I just grew up with that discipline, period. You don't give up. No, you don't give a shit. You get in there. Your leg's not broken. You know, you're not bleeding profusely. You got to get back in there. But I think with me is the knowledge that I wanted to learn from this and seeing this, I was like, this is the guy, right? One thing about me is an old man once told me, wise is a man who learns from someone else's mistake. Or if you see a guy that has the wisdom, that's the guy you're going to go with, right? And I think for me, it wasn't really about the throwing up. I was like, holy shit, I've never felt this before. But I think that when I was training with Al those first days, he's not training me as a kid. I'm literally working at his level. And I may be with 80% less weight, but it was there. But one of the defining moments was for me was that he built you up. It wasn't like tearing you down. So I remember I get to a point and I can't do squats worth of shit. So I started off going in, I couldn't even get the bar. We started off with the broomstick because I didn't have the balance. And so I learned with this broomstick, and I didn't give a shit. I've got a lot of confidence. If you know me, even back then. So I'm with my broomstick like, what up? But the thing about me that gave me a lot of confidence, even at that 15 years old, is that, you know, I was a slugger, right? I knew I could fight. A very fast twitch puncher. Like, by the time you knew I could punch you 5 times, you were like, oh shit. So I didn't care about that, but I had that fire in me. And I was like, and for me, I just liked the look. I thought, like Al said something, I think bodybuilding gave me the edge across everybody. Now imagine adding bodybuilding and then your intellect. You know, it just sets you apart, right? So even the nerds and guys competing against me were so scared that they were just intimidated. Like, I can't meet up to this guy. You know what I'm trying to say? Right. Looking like a football player.
Guys. Until next week.
Yep, next week. Listen. So I think the piece was really learning to just stick with it, but I saw what the gains were. And so I think ultimately, I think Coach, what's missing in today is that one, we don't have the teachers, we don't have the mentors out there, right? And I'm a little reversed than you in what you said. Like when you go to Tao Spa, I mean that spa at the time, I don't know what it looks like today, could rival any gym in this state of New Mexico, maybe pass it. I remember going in one time, I don't know if you remember this, and Julia Roberts walked in with Benjamin Brad, and they didn't allow anybody, and Al says, he says, don't ask questions, don't say this. And I remember, I don't know if it was Mick or Mick's wife, it was Mick's wife who comes and says, she tells the workers, first one that asks for a freaking autograph, you're fired. But you know what's crazy is that the respect that I had, I was like with Al, and it's funny because they would be like, is that your dad? You know, we had that connection, right? But I was one of those guys that stayed quiet. Like, I didn't say a damn thing, I just stayed quiet. I just do my shit, we're in there cranking away, and I learned immediately, but we're in there, and I remember that I'm like, I don't even know who Julia Roberts is. Think about that, because I didn't have TV. We didn't have a TV, right? So they're like, that's Julia Roberts. So I'm thinking, and so I'm like, it's Julia Roberts. He's looking, I'm a country kid, like beyond country, you know what I mean about this? So I don't even know who I'm talking to. But I remember this is a crazy moment. So the following weekend I go, Al had to work on some of these, he's working on these big old transmissions, and he's at this shop with this one guy, and he was like a bodybuilder too. So he doesn't go, and I go, and I show up, and the lights are off. And they come in, and I remember seeing Mick, and he's like, oh, that's his, Al's boy let him in. So he let me in. Mick was cool. He knew my mom and stuff. He knew that I didn't bother. But I remember Julia Robert walks in, and they're wiping everything down the simple green, right? And some guy doesn't show up that day, and I can't remember who it was. So how I grew up, you just do it. So I got the shit, and I started freaking, I just wiped, and I'm a perfectionist, right? So I wiped everything down because the guy didn't show up, and I said, I'll help you guys out. So I get the shit done, and they're like, holy crap. And I remember that they wanted the cables waxed perfect. because of something she had asked for and all that. So I'm watching this guy. He's kind of like half-assing it. So I get this done. Long story short was this. So I'm in there, and they're going to kick everybody out. Benjamin Bratt walks in. I don't know who Benjamin Bratt is, right? And he says, you know what? He's all, and at the time I was getting pretty yoked. He goes, you could be in Hollywood easy. And I'm thinking to myself, who's this local guy telling me this, right? But what's crazy, he's talking to me, and the lady's looking like, you're not supposed to be, but he's engaging me, right? And I'm not, I got the baddest trainer in the world. You never met Al, Big Al, he got a big ponytail. You know, we live this way, and he's asking me these questions. And the crazy part is, I don't know who this guy is, and I'm actually correcting him because I remembered about, the triceps were in triceps, and my triceps were blowing up, and that's why I was getting the weight. And he's doing it wrong, and I was like, well, Al doesn't do it like that. You got to come up, and you got to really create this and, create that extension. And it was crazy because here I'm this kid teaching this freaking Hollywood star, and I don't even know who he is, right? And I jumped in my Escort. But I remember him telling me, he says, you know what? You're going to do major things in life. That's what he told me.
How about that? And so he was good. I've never having you on. I really appreciate you giving us the time today. Really makes me think. I haven't thought of this story in a long time. I was about 18 years old. I was a college prospect, and I wanted to be strong and fast and explosive. And I went to one of the guys in the gym who was built like a brick shithouse. And I said to him, hey, man, I want to start juicing. I want to juice, man. He's like, what do you want to do that for? And I said, man, I just need the edge. Back then, so many people did it. In college sports, it was rampant. And I said, for me to compete with the guys that I have to go up against, because, when you were recruited nationally, you're competing against everybody across the country. And you wanted every edge. That was just part of the culture that, that we went there. And he literally said, Dominic, you don't need it. He said, I regret that I took it, because he talked about goat. He was built like you, and he really said, no, and I'm going to tell anybody else in the gym if you go and ask to tell you no. And, I hadn't thought about that thought in a long time, but man, he was looking out after me.
Well, it's short-lived, it's a very short-lived. I think the opportunities, like, when you see that, it's really a short-lived game, because it's like Al, we talk about this all the time. You're going to look good for this period. You're not going to really maintain it. You see these guys that are that hard-looking, and they're on Anavar and all the different stuff. And it is what it is. And there's no, to me, it's a different thing. If it works for you, that's what you want to do. I don't give a shit. You're not going to affect me, right? But I think one of the things that I used to see a lot was when I saw this, and I remember like Al in the strength is when this other guy Mick was there. Mick was a very defined bodybuilder, right? And watch him and I see stuff. But what I liked about when I saw Al, that was the guy that put the chalk on his hands, got dirty, and it was the power, right? And I would watch, and I'm watching these two guys, and I'm looking at the side, he was more like the refined deal, but I was like, I like this brute strength, I kind of like, for me, it was like, this is me. I'm like the Al, we have so much in common. So I grew up in Mora, I did this, I went to, we graduated at West Mesa, right? But, kind of that whole thing, and I think for me, growing up in a multicultural family, I really identified with him. So I think for me, it was like, I really identify with this guy.
Right.
This is me. And so I think at that point, you got to look for those people. And it's crazy because we continued even our relationship past that. I left Miami. I'm freaking killing it doing stuff. But I think at the end of the day is like those fundamentals that you learn in bodybuilding or powerlifting are really the pillars. And that's why I go with the mind, body, spirit. Right? You get those coaches, you get that teacher. For me, Miss Garduno, right? Saying this guy sees things in patterns. Al in the body piece, right? The spiritual side. I had some great people down to like my childhood priest who was open-minded. He wasn't stuck like trying to give you the religious rules. He's like, hey, look, you know what? I smoked pot one time. I did this. I do that. And you're like, whoa, holy shit, this is the, and so you learn that people still have that humanistic deal. And the people who are acting like, oh, I don't do any of that shit or this, they're full of shit. You know what I'm trying to say?
Right.
But I think ultimately, you could never, and that's in the rules, hard work and dedication will always surpass anything in life. I don't give a damn. You could go in the weight room and do it all wrong. If you do it all wrong consistently, you're still going to be better than the inconsistent people.
Right.
You know, and I think that's kind of like what I saw. I mean, now, you were in the fitness game, and I was in the time in the fitness game. I mean, what did you see like the differences? And well, I guess the other thing I want to touch on was before I did this, being in Taos and like having Al and even Mick, and people don't know this, but didn't Mick have a bench press contest with Arnold Schwarzenegger or something like that?
He had a contest with somebody famous.
Somebody famous, right?
And he was not a big guy.
No.
He was cut all year long. I mean, just unheard of. But that's what he did. He didn't compete anymore.
No. And I remember he beats this pretty famous, I can't remember who it was. I could have sworn it was Arnie, but what I saw was that whole thing, like I was saying, this guy was freaking cut all the time. And so to me, it gave me a sense of like, here we are, some small town guys kicking ass. Period, right? This guy's freaking out, benching everybody doing shit. Here's Mick. Everyone knows who he is and all it is. And I crossed over because I went to work for a company, and I'm an SBO. I'm 16 going to college. People didn't know that, but I'm dominating the gym. My pictures are still there, right? 4 plates on a freaking shoulder press, and so like, but I was like, holy shit! I was like trained out of Sparta, but I didn't know what Sparta was back then, right? But I'm coming in there, I'm saying there wasn't that, because what I liked about being in that environment is the guys took that time. Even when Al wasn't there and Mick was there, he'd be like, hey, let me show you. I remember showing him an ab workout because he pulled out his abs, and I was like, holy shit, this guy's the freaking craziest abs I've ever seen in my life. And he used to do this famous thing where he'd take the bench, he'd take the bar, and he'd sit down, and then from the bench he would do these real isolated ab workouts, right? And I think I always liked that because it was a more of a community thing. Like, you know, okay, you're like, where you from? Oh, I grew up there. I know where your mom is. You know, so I think that was what I think was so cool. And so I didn't give a shit where I went. You could put me in a big city. You could put me no matter what. And I'd be like, well, I train with the baddest guys in the world, so it doesn't matter to me. You see that sense of confidence?
Oh, yeah.
I could have been in that gym with you out in New Jersey, and I still would have been like, the guys back home will kick your ass. You know what I'm trying to tell you? That's kind of where I was for me.
Yeah. Al, you know, appreciate you coming down, man. I personally want to invite you back. You know, you come on, you know, Champions Corner podcast or come back on Jack's podcast. I think we've got a lot of ground to cover, and man, I appreciate you coming and teaching a little bit and talking. That's my game right there, man.
There you go. Well, like you said, you want your boy. I'll get you a phone number. You can
definitely
give me a jingle.
Definitely.
And my last little note, Jack did the thing where he walks in the gym and he wants to work out with the big guy, and at the time that was me. So then when I moved to Farmington, I opened up my own gym. I had bought a health food store and put a gym in the back. So I'd be working out and somebody'd come in and I'd run out and people would say, what are you doing? I says, oh, I got a little in the back. The back was bigger than the front. It just was a big building, you know? And that's how I started renting out gym space and then running around buying equipment. And, you know, every New Year's, I bought a new piece of equipment of some kind. Everybody put a suggestion and we'd buy a new piece of equipment until the gym finally, I mean, I moved 4 times and just kept expanding. But one time this kid, he was younger than me. Everybody's younger than me, it feels like. He walks in and said, I'm looking for Al. 6'5", this guy. And I said, yeah, that's me. And he says, well, you do look like you're in pretty good shape, you know, kind of being sultry. And I said, I get by. So he starts working out with me, and I used to go through partners a lot because they just couldn't hang, or they didn't, you know what I mean, or life gets in the way. I mean, that can be part of it. So he starts working out, he's single, by himself, blah, 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 working the oil fields out of Wyoming. Never been out of Thermopolis, Wyoming. It's a little bitty nothing town. We started working out, and he got hurt in the oil fields. Long story short, he gets a settlement, was worried about losing it to his ex, so he gave it to me to put it in an account so he could do something with it. So one day he comes in, he says, I told him, I said, this isn't going to make you rich. You're not going to have a great life owning a little gym someplace and working out. So he looks around and ends up getting accepted to a respiratory therapy school in LA, or in California. I'm sorry, I don't know the city. He said, so I need to pay for books and da-da-da-da. And I said, okay, so here's the deal. That's your college fund, whatever it is. I said, you call me, you need money for college. I'll send it to the college. You need books, I'll send you the money and hope you buy your books. You know what I'm saying? So one time he called me up and he said, I got a really good deal on juice. And he said, I'm thinking I want to take it and I need about $800. And I said, well, I understand that. I said, I don't think much of it, but I understand that. Go get a job. No, you've got my money. I said, yeah, I've got your college money. You don't get it. He's a PA now. Okay, so he went from respiratory therapy to, and I don't know the order, RN, LPN, and then PA. And I went to all his graduations. He did one contest, and I flew out 2 weeks ahead of time to set up his bodybuilding routine, because that was one of the things I was known for around here, was setting up really good routines that went with what you looked like. Okay, I don't care if you like that pose, you look like heck. You can't have it. Throw it away. So, and we're still friends today. I was the best man at his wedding. He was the best man at one of my weddings. So we still keep in touch. And it's something that, if I don't talk to him for 6 months and show up on his doorstep, his wife lets me in, puts me in the spare room, and when he gets home, we get together. So that's another thing you can build. And I mean, there was huge differences in mental capabilities, obviously. I mean, I couldn't be a doctor. I don't have what it took. I watched him study. Oh my gosh, forget about it. But the gym brought us together. And then we both hunted and we did, outdoorsy Wyoming things. So that's another thing that happens. You develop, and it doesn't go away. I didn't see Jack.
Lifelong.
How long was it? For years, I didn't see you.
A lot of years.
And I met you at the mall.
Yes.
Ran into him at the mall one day. I was doing some schlocky job at a kiosk, and he walked in and we talked a little bit, and we changed numbers and got together, and we keep in touch now.
Yeah, lifelong.
Lifelong.
Thanks, Al. Without a doubt, we're gonna have your back. Jack, you get the final word, man. So give us something that our listeners are gonna carry them until next Tuesday.
Guys, like I said, you wanna be a millionaire, take a millionaire out to lunch. You wanna be a bodybuilder, take out to lunch. Find the best you possibly can around you, and if you search it, you'll find it. But it's gonna be a while. You're gonna go through the bullshit that I did. But you just got to keep on searching and you'll find the best. And you got to put that hard work and dedication. But the big thing is this. If you find it, don't blow it. Don't be a know-it-all. Keep your mouth shut. Do what you're told. And you'll rise to the top. And that's what a bunch I got to say. So you can never outdo hard work and dedication. Period. We're out, guys. Till next Tuesday.
See you guys next week.
Harmonix Technologies, your New Mexico business IT solution. With incredible products that will fit your needs both big and small, and unmatched service, it's your vision delivered. Learn how we can help your business roar into action today. Harmonix Technologies, your New Mexico business IT solution.